I think yes, he maybe have been the better candidate in this case, but I don't think that's happened universally. It's a matter of Republicans giving themselves as a party. This may be happenstance, it may be serendipitous, or it may be some genius plan. They're known to do both, but they give themselves a larger lane to run in, because you can have gentlemen, ladies who are running with no CRT, no trans in schools, no immigrants, no vaccines, no masks.
Yeah.
They can just rail against it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and get elected. Or, they have the range like this. You can have a guy like you just described, bland. It's a personal choice. Everything's basically a personal choice.
Yeah, it's personal responsibility.
Except for taxes, which we're gonna stay out of your face about, right?
Yeah.
And so you're gonna run the gamut. Whereas opposite end of the spectrum, Democrats, it's very difficult for you to get all the funding and publicity and support and have any kind of meteoric rise if you're not a stalwart for trans rights, if you're not a stalwart for CRT, if you're not a stalwart for all things medical science. And so it's all or nothing. Environmental measures, especially, that's the topic of today. If you're not all Green New Deal, get out of my face.
So you can abide by the Democratic platform.
Yes.
But it's not enough. You have to go above and beyond that, right? So the Democratic platform says housing should be available. It should be inexpensive. It should be, build more of it. If you don't say housing is a right, which is a step above, then you're not getting the play. If you don't say healthcare is a right, instead of saying healthcare should be inexpensive and available, you're not getting the play. And so I think really, they often do handcuff themselves by doing that. But one thing I will say, the Democrats have to stay the course, and you got to say certain things to get any type of play, and that makes it where you can't win in places where they don't want to hear that. And so you may win, like I always say, Bill Ward won the election in Brooklyn, but he lost it in Amarillo, and that's where it matters. Welcome back to Relatively Conscious. My name is Thomas Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Shout out to DJ for making our beat.
At DW Made That on social media.
And follow us on social media.
That's at Kinda Woke on Instagram and Twitter. Relatively Conscious everywhere else. Follow, share, comment, subscribe, reply, retweet, all that, and let us know. What's the hot take
about the election
in particular?
Yeah.
Last Tuesday, I got a half day off from work. They let us out early. I work at a school, and they were like, "Oh man, we know people got their civic duty to do," and I was like, "Too bad, I have nothing to vote for."
Well, yeah, constitutional amendments, but they're going to pass anyway, so
Yeah. Texas constitutional amendments. It doesn't matter. I don't have any local elected officials because I live in an unincorporated place outside of Houston, Texas. Yeah. So all the city politics don't apply to me
at all. Yeah. All right. So anyway, here's how it works. It's a take auction. Election night takes. Election night was last night. Republicans won the Virginia state legislature and the governorship. Virginia had been teetering towards being a completely blue state. So after Obama won it in 2008, a Democrat had won it since then. The Democrats took over the state legislature 10, 12 range and had it since then, basically a trifecta. And so it was ranging towards being from a purple state to a blue state. And the Republicans came back in the surge, right? New Jersey, historically blue state, except for every now and then they elect a Republican governor to be, different. So Chris Christie was from New Jersey, famously. He shut down the beach. That is hilarious. That story will always be funny to me.
Always.
The picture of his fat behind on the beach, like nobody's gonna see him.
I was about to say he thought he was incognito, and then they got him on the local news helicopter cam.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Chris Christie's from there. So anyway, Democrat barely won, and then in Minneapolis, they had a reform to get rid of actually defund the police department. That lost. A progressive didn't win in Boston. It was Boston, though, and she was endorsed by the senator from Massachusetts, which is Elizabeth Warren. So across the board, pretty much, Democrats took a shellacking. Is the best way to explain it. So we have 6 takes that I've heard so far. We've had 6 takes I've heard so far on the news for punditry podcasts. And we're going to have an auction to get the 3 best takes, right? We have $200 each. So if you spend only $200 on the first take, you only have 1 take, basically. And so the first take is that Biden is unpopular. All right. So a little background to explain this. Joe Biden's approval rating is now below what Donald Trump was at his highest peak. There was a honeymoon period. Then the Delta variant came back. Then we saw, and then Afghanistan happened. The Delta variant continued. The 2 bills, the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill, stalled out in Congress. It just passed the infrastructure bill after the election, though. Bad timing on my part, on my belief. And so Biden's just not very popular as a president. And so if we're basically going to see, do you think that's the best take for what happened? So I'll start the bidding at $20. Do you want the take for $20?
Biden is unpopular. I put $20 on that. That's chill.
Okay. 25. I'll go to 25.
Okay. Let me throw 50 down on that. You playing small ball. Nobody is with you. Biden is unpopular, bro. Don't nobody like him in real life. Everybody's making fun of him. Goofs and gaffs. And it's not a laugh. It's too serious for us to be making jokes. It's not like Trump where he's joking the whole time.
Okay, so give me more of why you think he is unpopular. Is this just the ebbs and flow of presidency? Is he actually doing something to make him unpopular?
Here's the thing. We're supposed to be. Trump was the big bad wolf. Okay. And I don't think that's blowing things out of proportion. He was very, very bad. Horrible president. Put himself in the conversation for my top 5 worst presidents of all time.
Up there with William, what's his name? Not William. The president before
James Buchanan.
James Buchanan, there we go.
Yes. Trump is one of the worst presidents ever. And Biden was supposed to be the white knight savior. And I'm saved from nothing. No Green New Deal, no the supply chain still all screwed up. Corona still messing us up. We still got crazy inflation. Like you can't keep blaming Trump. And we just far in. We almost a year in. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
The 4th was the election day?
Yeah. We just crossed a year since the election, but it's almost to a year since inauguration. And dog, I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to see. $50 on that.
$50. I'm gonna give it to you. $50. I'll give you that to you.
I feel like I've won, but also I've lost. I did not make the list.
Gotcha. All right. So next one. COVID restrictions. I put lifted. So here's the take in short form. People are ready for COVID restrictions to be lifted, right? So they're tired of masks, they're tired of being inside the house. They don't feel threatened by COVID anymore. The Delta variant kind of came and went. Most of them have vaccines. Those that weren't going to get vaccines aren't scared of COVID. That's the reason why they're not getting a vaccine. Because you never see, which is funny to me, people refusing the vaccine and then being masked up and gloves on and practice social distancing. They refuse the vaccine and then live life normally.
Yes.
That don't make any sense to me. Yeah.
Very few. I do know some people who were like, because, who were trying to be responsible, but also are vaccine skeptics. That is the outlier. But those people exist.
Most of them are acting like Aaron Rodgers. No vaccine, but I'm going to do a press conference, no mask on.
Right.
And they thought they elected a president who was responsible. If Trump was irresponsible during the coronavirus pandemic, then if I elected a responsible person who's going to do the vaccine rollout, going to make sure we have the vaccine mandates and all the masks supposed to be in play, well, we should be done by now. It's November. Like, it should be over. It's been about to be 2 years of going on this pandemic. Why am I still in the house? Why can I still not, eat outside if you're living in California? Virginia, they consider not having school in person in Virginia because of the vaccine, because of the coronavirus. So a lot of people are at the point now to waiting for the COVID restrictions to be lifted and go back to life as normal. They want to go to parties, concerts, and want to just live their life normally and not taking any mess for it, basically. So I'm gonna put this at $25. How do you feel?
I'll give you 30 on the COVID restrictions. I feel that, but I don't.
Why not?
Because it's I don't know, in my experience, which is limited, and in the news coverage that I listen to, the restrictions aren't. It's and then especially in Texas, it's a dead issue. Either
Yeah.
you doing it or you're not. Going to the grocery store. Some people are raw dogging life. Other people are masked up like myself, and it's just there's two different type of people in this world.
Yeah.
There's no more beefs about it. The only people I have to argue about it are my kids at school because they don't want to wear the mask, and all of them have to, regardless of how their parents feel about it. So it's kind of a dead issue to me.
Well, can it be a cultural COVID restrictions? Like culturally, you feel like if you go out in raw dog life,
Yeah. That's what we're calling it. Official
uh,
language.
if you go out and do that, that basically you're gonna get no, don't do that from the liberals on Twitter, and so therefore you feel the cultural COVID restrictions.
So let's go to where the state's in question. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking Virginia. I don't think so.
Yes. Well, Virginia's has some pretty liberal bastions in Virginia where they would do that.
Are these when we're talking the swing voters, suburban mom type, soccer mom, Karens, do they care? Are they listening? Are these their circles, right? And these are people who, they're reasonable people generally. They're centrists.
Yeah.
The Democrat felt I was feeling him last time, not feeling him this time. The Democratic Party grown sour on. They're doing too much when it comes to COVID restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. I do not care what anybody says on social media because it's about me and my family. I make the choices for my family. You won't have my child masked.
Yeah, I'm gonna put 50 down. I think this is like really one of the top ones. I think it's really like one of the real issues. People are tired of the pandemic and they're like, well, if we elected a Democrat and it's not happening, maybe we have to watch Republicans. That's what I think. I'm putting 50 down.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, gotcha. All right, the next one. CRT and the Democratic Party is too liberal nationally. All right.
Yes.
So this is culture war in here's little part of this take that I think is interesting because when I say Democratic Party is too liberal nationally, Joe Biden would listen to this and say, well, I'm a Democratic Party and I'm not that liberal nationally, right?
It's true.
I'm not out there like that. But I really do believe a lot of people see Ta-Nehisi Coates, talking heads, what's the guy's name? The black guy who was on CNN. Lemon?
Van Jones. It is Don Lemon. Don Lemon exists, but I think Van Jones is more of the annoying character.
Yeah, Van Jones, Bakari Sellers, I've met personally. I don't want to do him like that, but Bakari Sellers.
He's better than the other two black people that we've mentioned.
Yeah, he's better, but I still think, they see them as Democrats, basically, and they see them as the face of the Democratic Party.
Right, that's crazy how that works.
And so if they're talking about CRT and they're going on with these shows and talking about how we need to talk about race in school and how we need to, housing is a right, healthcare is a right, we need to do a Green New Deal, forget them coal mine workers. No one has said that. People felt they're saying that. If that's the feeling that, they see that nationally, then they're like, well, this Democrat who I got to vote for. Obviously, he believes that too. And so therefore, because Democrats, media, activists, players are too liberal nationally, it caused them to lose locally in Virginia, caused them to have a scare in New Jersey. How do you feel about that one?
I agree. And here's what the only thing I'll say to check that is not on the take itself, but on where you're saying people get this perception from. It's true, they're watching CNN or whatever other news source and listening to pundits and they don't like it.
Or Fox News is showing Van Jones cry.
This is also true.
Yeah.
They'll put him on the 5. But yeah.
Look at this guy. Look at him.
He said white lash. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
He's making up words. But that's true, but also they heard it from the squad themselves. So there are for real legislators who will vote against a generally progressive. It's not as progressive as many want it to be. Not even as progressive as I want it to be.
Yeah.
It's pragmatic and it's an infrastructure bill, and it's the infrastructure's got to get built. And they say, I'm not voting for that because it's not progressive enough for me. That's the type of behavior that I turn somebody off. $30.
I really believe in this one. I'm gonna hit you with 45.
50. Stop playing with me. I guess I got money on it. What another thing is with the CRT stuff. Here's my problem with the rhetoric. Right when you get to it's in part a successful culture war because I believe people aren't interested in arguing it, as I would say, correctly. I'm not a capital E expert, but having the experience that I have in rhetoric and speech writing, et cetera, et cetera. The best thing to do in this situation is de-escalate. Yeah. Right. Everybody, they're trying to brainwash your kids, And then the popular response, not by scholars necessarily, just interested folks, is so you don't want your kids to learn the real evils of whiteness. We just telling the truth to your kids. No, CRT is not telling the truth. That's not what that means. CRT is not something you teach in a high school or a middle school or anything like that. It's just not there. Tell people that.
Yeah.
And so the fight is going really, really poorly. And that's why I believe it's a high dollar, argument.
Also, I really feel as if Joe Biden is doing enough to be like, that's not what I'm talking about. I think he needs to come out more and be like, the squad.
He don't want to fight that fight. I feel him.
But he needs to, because he's going to cause down ballot Democrats to lose. And so,
is it his fault though? Can you blame him for that? I'm just trying to be the president. He's trying to get the supply lines open.
I'm putting a 60 on it. I believe in it strongly. I'm putting a 60 on it.
Man, it's pushing my budget. 70, boom, 75. Wow.
You got it. 75. All right. Ugh. Let's go. Yes.
I'm winning bidding wars. I'm like, am I winning? I don't know. I'm doing the math in my head.
Gotcha. So right now you have $125. So yeah, $75
left. Yes. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm with that. $75 left to work with. All right. So the next one is that I love this saying: "Is the economy stupid?" All right. So
probably right. And
you can spend the rest of it on
this. Where is my dog? My dog needs to say, Rasha, please come in here.
So inflation is on the rise. Is going. I don't want to say it's going haywire. A lot of people kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah, I think people are overreacting. It sucks, and we already did the whole pandemic. The economy's been in a tailspin. It's been out of control for too long,
and then it's ramping back. It's ramping back up. A lot of people have extra money in their pocket, so they're spending, and it's starting to make the prices go out of whack. Supply demand, the chart. Gas prices are high,
crazy high. Not crazy, but bad.
I was at a pump yesterday, paid $3. The problem is we got kind of complacent when the lockdown happened.
Man, beautiful gas prices.
Yeah, we got really complacent, and therefore not as back with $3 like regular.
It was like negative pennies a barrel. I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Just driving across Houston.
And so now it's high again. Eggs and milk are reasonably higher than normal. Supply chain issues. And so is it just basically the economy? They're like, well, if people are spending too much money, Republicans have generally high marks when it comes to the economy. People believe in their ability to run the economy correctly. If the economy is going to be people's main issue, then I'm probably going to go turn to Republican if Democrats are in charge when the economy goes haywire.
That's funny, though, because, yes, they are in charge when it goes haywire, but it's kind of an Obama-Bush situation.
Yeah.
Nobody at this point, maybe immediately after, and Fox News was ready to blame literally anything on Barack Obama when he got elected.
Yes.
But in retrospect, it's abundantly clear that our situation in 2009 was not a result of Obama era policies, because that's just absurd. It's just not possible.
Yeah. But I believe that's people are really going to go to the polls to think that. And that's their main driver. Well, if I got to pay more for gas prices, I'm not going to pay for a Democrat. I was talking about raising taxes. They talk about raising taxes on billionaires. How people think. That's me, apparently. Millionaires, billionaires. Also,
well, if you tax Elon Musk, he doesn't spend the money he needs to spend to rev up the economy, building spaceships.
Also, one thing I will say though, I do think it's kind of lost on people. Some people are millionaires because of the house they own, and the house they own became $1 million house because of weird stuff that happened. So you live in Arlington, Virginia, and you bought a house back in the 60s, right? That was like a reasonable price. Arlington was outside of DC. It was kind of far away from the city. It wasn't like in the metropolitan area like that. But now it's a DMV. And so your house is worth $1 million because if I want to take a job in DC and I want to live in a city, I'm looking to move to Arlington, which has we took classes in Arlington, basically.
Yes.
And so
I can hop on the subway into the city of DC from Arlington. So yeah.
And so therefore now your house is millions of dollars, And so now you are technically a millionaire by wealth standpoint. And so they're still going to tax millionaires. You're like, well, that's me.
Yeah, you're taxing. Interesting. Still not talking to you, but okay.
Yeah, they're not talking to you, of course.
Yeah.
But you can think of yourself as
right,
a millionaire.
Right.
How much the house is worth. So with that being said, I believe this economy is stupid. Sign up for $25.
I could 30 on that.
50.
You got me.
Yeah. I know he's probably the main one.
Shut up, Irv.
All right. All right, next one. Not liberal enough nationally. These are the last two. Spend the rest of my money. I have $100 left. You're 75. These are the last.
You have how many?
$100 left.
Oh yeah, okay.
You're 75.
It's going to get interesting now.
Yeah. Not liberal enough. This is the AOC point or the squad point because I don't think about not using her name like that. I feel like people be putting her name in it.
I feel that. That's why I say the squad. The squad.
Yeah. Or pundits, because here's the point.
Twitter.
If you get on Twitter, people are not really feeling Joe Biden like that. Not feeling the Democratic Party like that. And they feel like you promised me a lot of things, you're not doing it. Where's student loan forgiveness, Joe? What's not making sense, Joe? Cash out me the money right now, Joe. You know what I'm saying?
Cash out me.
What I'm gonna do with a stimmy check, Joe?
Zell me.
You said what?
Zell me.
Yeah, zelling me. Yeah. And so they're not, so basically you lost that fervor of young Black people, young white progressives, because they don't see the world changing fast enough for them. And so you're not talking about a climate change bill. You're not talking about giving people a child tax credit, forgiving student loan debt, making college free, these different things that would make people very happy. Free healthcare, universal healthcare, You're not talking about these big ideas. That's really like progressive bastion of ideas. You're going to lose young people. You're going to lose the people who are going to turn out, who are going to post the hashtags, going to remind people there's an election coming. People are going to go out and register voters. Young people who are willing to stay outside in the hot sun, outside of Kroger, and ask, are you registered to vote, man? Nobody came and did it. So I didn't see nobody out doing that, except for one of my friends from college. So she's really about this. But besides that, I didn't see anybody else posting about election day coming. So if you don't have that young fervor, it's probably because you wasn't liberal enough and you were too boring. And people really went back to what they do most times when stuff is boring. They don't pay attention.
I'm thinking. That's interesting. Now, that's a weird way to put it, though, because if you're not liberal enough, shouldn't I, call me super liberal, a leftist, if you will?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I engage to promote my political views? In the case of Bernie Sanders, he did not win either, 2016 or 2020, but he gained a larger platform, bigger tent type situation. So more people know about him. They know about his principles. His views are more popular. You got to do what you got to do. Incremental steps, right?
Because here's what I think also. They didn't want to go vote in 2020. A lot of people talking about not voting. We did a whole show about that. Several shows, actually. People say that dumb mess. I'm going to say it's dumb. Right? So they didn't want to go vote. Now you may as well go vote. And now you're not doing the stuff I wanted to. Like police reform's not happening. If that's happening, well, then why am I going to go vote again? I got to stand in line. I got to register. I got to figure out where my polling location is. I got to send a mail-in ballot. All these different things I got to do to actually go vote. I'm just not enthusiastic about it. And the numbers did show in Virginia, the Democrats were less enthusiastic than Republicans. So I would say that not being liberal enough could be a serious issue here. So $25 starting out.
30.
40.
45.
I'm gonna let you have it. I think
Well,
I think I want the last take.
oh my gosh. Okay. I have $30 left. Gonna sell.
Yeah. All right. So that gave you $40 for that one. I'm just gonna take the last one.
Okay.
So the last one is Republicans just ran a better candidate. And so here's the theory on that. Youngkin, the guy who won in Virginia, is a real down to earth Mitt Romney Republican. He's a white guy who got some money. He wears a sweater vest, or a sweater, basically. Got the pepper gray hair. He's got a family. And he doesn't say too much Trump stuff. He kind of dabbles his foot in every now and then. He says, I think there's some funny stuff going on with the election. I think that maybe parents should decide what goes on in their schools.
Yeah, that was the best one.
I think that vaccine should be a personal choice. Vaccines and masks should be a personal choice type of deal, right? And so I think that what really can't happen here was that Donald Trump made us forget the Republicans' best weapon is to be boring. It's to be boring and to be rich. And that works just very well for them.
It's boring, it's rich, and it's the good old fashioned way. I mean,
yeah. He's a non-threatening wasp. Like he's just like that's who's ran our country for years. And so, like even down here in Houston, Crenshaw, at the end of the day, is a non-threatening wasp with the military stuff added on top of it. Everything he says on TV, all that other stuff,
really chill.
Really chill. Well, everything he says on TV, all that stuff on Fox News, most people want to see.
Yes.
Most people in this district aren't watching Fox News like that. They're working class, or they have money. Like, are you part of this district?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Most people who live in his district, though, they're working class, right? It's blue collar working class. Maybe they don't have a little bit of money on them, but they're not really watching Fox News like that. They're not the people who think we're watching Fox News every day. And so they don't really see his most crazy, outlandish things. And his mailouts I get very just plain Republican.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. On Fox News, he'll say what he needs to say for the popular clout to get the donations and whatnot, sell books. But in local news coverage, sit down, interview his own campaign materials, central Republican, very Texas blue collar, suburban. Just chilling. We don't do anything extreme. We have to secure the border, but legal immigration, I'm on your side. Okay.
Yeah. And so, or legal immigration through legal means, right? Go through the right way.
Should we increase? Sure, we should increase immigration. I don't have the answers there, but we have to be more legitimate than we are.
Yeah. He'll do a workshop. He did a workshop one time so people get their papers right to do legal immigration, which,
a lot of immigrants around here.
Yeah, I guess, because the question is not people who are already here getting the paperwork done. The question is people at the border who live in, and a house is on fire and he's going to help them get out. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So the Republicans ran just a better candidate. They ran a boring white guy who definitely did not do any Trump stuff. And that just wins. Off your election, when nobody's paying attention, that wins.
My last take on your take.
Yeah.
Sure, he's a good candidate, but I think it's less of, because this is a phenomenon across the country. Democrats lost on Tuesday is the general story. I think, yes, he maybe have been the better candidate in this case, but I don't think that's happened universally. It's a matter of Republicans giving themselves as a party. This may be happenstance, it may be serendipitous, or it may be some genius plan. They're known to do both, but they give themselves a larger lane to run in. Because you can have gentlemen, ladies who are running with no CRT, no trans in schools, no immigrants, no vaccines, no masks.
Yeah.
They can just rail against it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and get elected. Or, they have the range like this. You can have a guy like you just described, bland. It's a personal choice. Everything's basically a personal choice.
Yeah, it's personal responsibility.
Except for taxes, which we're gonna stay out of your face about, right?
Yeah.
And so you gotta run the gamut. Whereas opposite end of the spectrum, Democrats, it's very difficult for you to get all the funding and publicity and support and have any kind of meteoric rise if you're not a stalwart for trans rights, if you're not a stalwart for CRT, if you're not a stalwart for all things medical science. And so it's all or nothing. Environmental measures, especially that's the topic of today. If you're not all Green New Deal, get out of my face.
Because it's funny, so you can abide by the Democratic platform.
Yes.
But it's not enough. You have to go above and beyond that, right? So the Democratic platform says housing should be available. It should be inexpensive. It should be, build more of it. If you don't say housing is a right, which is a step above, then you're not getting the play. If you don't say healthcare is a right, instead of saying healthcare should be inexpensive and available, you're not getting the play. And so I think really they often do handcuff themselves by doing that. But one thing I will say, Virginia Republicans were smart because there's a woman who's going to run in Virginia to run against Youngkin. She calls herself this, Trump in heels, right?
Yes.
There's going to be a primary, and she may have beaten this guy Youngkin. But instead of having
closed primary,
they had a closed primary, went behind closed doors and chose Youngkin. They chose the boring guy, and that's how they end up winning. And so I think as long as they choose to do that and keep the crazies at bay, they've got it. Like
they can retrieve their party from the extremes, whereas Democrats are letting things play out.
I think if they do close primaries, they could really, because in Texas, there is an alternative universe, a very, very alternative universe. But it could happen. When they run Adam West, he says something crazy, and Beto O'Rourke just lucks into the governorship.
Yes. Well, how crazy? I don't, because the Republican Party is crazy is already here. They're already crazy. Yeah. We already have our seniors sacrificing their whole generation for the sake of the economy. So I don't know exactly how crazy it had to be. Also, his name is Alan West. Sorry.
Where Alan West says something crazy enough and then they lost it to, or they run Dan Patrick. Because I can see saying something.
Okay, let's say the most plausible situation. This is not possible in that it would happen. It was the easiest loss for Republicans in Texas.
Yeah.
If Republicans in Texas ran a truly controversial Republican in Greg Abbott for re-election for governor, he could smooth lose.
Yes.
I don't know he can't. I don't believe that's true. He could lose, but not to Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, it would have to be like Matthew McConaughey. Like, I think if they ran Dan Patrick, he could lose to Matthew McConaughey if he said something crazy. If they were on the debate case together, the debate stage together, and Dan Patrick gets an argument about vaccine mandates, and then Matthew McConaughey just says, "Hey, bro, just get the prick. It's all right. Just get the prick." And they're like, "Well, I don't know, man." Maybe Matthew McConaughey, I can see it.
I hope so. I hope that's true.
Anyway, so that's our takes in the election.